Recording. There we have it. All right. Well, cool. I am so excited to be here tonight. Joe, I don't know if you want to say anything since you're kind of
Well,
representing.
I do because, I have been a proponent of vibrational medicine, frequency, energy medicine for a long, long time. My bookshelves are full of them. And it's always been something I've always just done on my own and incorporated it into my nutritional frontiers lifestyle. But when Christine came on board, then there was a kindred spirit and somebody who actually just doesn't do it, but talks the talk, walks the walk, and teaches the way. So I'm excited about that. I have been since the beginning, and I agree. Energy and frequency is the future. I think we're there now.
Mm,
And what people don't realize too, Christine, is that everything we do on a vitamin nutritional level, that's all frequency.
hmm
Everything has a frequency, and the frequency matches or doesn't match is the differentiator. So we've been doing frequency medicine without even knowing it. Now let's take it to the next level.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Joe. I appreciate it. Yeah, I've talked to Jamie about actually, measuring where our supplements actually score. So that is something that I'm going to do.
Mhm.
I think. So what I'm going to
Well,
do is
some of our practitioners have done that. A lot of mics have, and
yeah.
yeah, we get high, high, high scores all the
I
time.
know. Well, I want to do it using my method and see what happens. So
Okay.
that's on my list of things to do. Well, first of all, I want to thank everybody for coming to the webinar tonight, whether you're watching now or later. The presentation is called "The Future of Medicine is Frequency," and I'm not the originator of that statement. Einstein is actually. So it's pretty exciting to know that he's the one behind it. Now, if you don't know me, I'm the Chief Growth Officer for Nutritional Frontiers. I absolutely love being a part of making the world healthy. And we get to do that in so many ways. We get to do that physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and energetically. So it really supports who I am. And my intention is to empower healthcare professionals and healers to reclaim their own well being while they help revolutionize the way they heal others. So my wish, my dream, is to have people incorporate soul intelligence and being a neuroenergetic healthcare practitioner in every wellness center throughout the country. So, believe it or not, I do have a degree, a couple. I have a master's degree in organizational management, a bachelor's degree in speech communication, and I'm also a certified professional coach. Um, and I'm going to talk to you tonight about um, not only the future of medicine as frequency, but talking to you about the things that I have learned, even with my experience being with Nutritional Frontiers and working with our incredible clients, what the underlying causes of dis-ease are in the body. Talking to you about the concept that everyone and everything is energy, because I think we forget that, and give you ways to kind of share that with your clients. I'm going to provide you with supporting data and research backing up everything that I'm talking to you about tonight. And we're going to talk about how frequency healing is really everywhere, and it's in multiple different practices and different fields of study. And I'm going to give you some actual case studies where I've partnered with some of our own healthcare professionals and some of the combined patients and work and outcomes that we've had together. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my own proprietary method, bioenergetic method, soul intelligence, and share with you some of my naturopathic protocols that are recommended or that I recommend to clients as well. So this is probably something that I use almost in every discussion when I'm working with a client. Um, when we look at what's chronic conditions, the reason why we talk so much about chronic conditions, especially in functional medicine, is because 95% of the people that go to functional medicine are suffering from something that just won't heal, right? And there's usually an underlying energetic reason why that will not heal. Right? Sometimes you treat one thing and then something else goes wrong, right? Or you treat it and it comes back, right? It's chronic. And the reason why it's chronic is because there is an underlying energetic component that hasn't released. And so you have to look at it mentally, emotionally, as well as physically, right? Ultimately, energetically. And the things that cause chronic conditions, the good news is most of these things are within our control, right? As Jamie likes to say, it's part of our lifestyle. But the biggest thing that I see with most of the people that I work with using this method, the major one is stress, right? And we know what stress does to the body and causing inflammation and lowering the immune system and opening us up to be susceptible to catch everything that comes down the pike, right? And how much that affects us. I deal with so many people, especially when they're having chronic conditions, as I'm sure you do, that have anxiety and depression, fatigue, all of that stuff coming from stress. The next one is toxicity, and I think we're familiar with that. But toxicity is not only what, the chemicals in the household that we can manage or trying to deal with, the glyphosates and the things that come into our physical environment, but the toxicity is also mentally. Like, what are we watching? What are we streaming? What are we listening to?
Mhm.
Um, who are we around? Like when you see that person come up on your cell phone and you just cringe and you don't want to pick it up, right? That's toxicity. That's an energy vampire. So, looking at who's calling you or who's in your circle. But managing our own, toxicity. Poor nutrition, obviously, it's one of the reasons for being for Nutritional Frontiers. We have lots of ways to supplement since we know that we can't get everything we need just from what's out there and available due to the depletion of the nutrients in the soil and all of the chemicals and things that we run across in terms of what we're putting into our body. And then I'm going to talk about lack of movement, not just lack of movement physically, but lack of energy movement in the body. Okay, so I want you to think about energy moving both internally as well as us moving our bodies physically. And then, the last component is really genetics. But when that comes up for me in a session, I'll know whether that is something that's behavioral or whether that's something that's neurological and something I can't shift, meaning it's something that the person has agreed to experience in this lifetime so that they can have a certain experience and learn something. So on the genetic component, that's the smallest amount. The rest of these things are really within our control. So we talk about lack of movement. I want us to really think about energy in general. And so I always start when I'm trying to describe to someone, what do I do? I had to do that today. I went to go see an accountant and she was like, so what is your business? What do you do? What's soul intelligence? So I always start out with everybody and everything is energy. And I think we forget that, right? Um, we are all protons, neutrons, electrons operating in an electromagnetic field. And we forget that because we're physical, we're corporal. But everyone and everything is energy. People are often like, well, how can you do a remote healing session like if you're not in the same room with someone? Well, right now, the only way I'm able to see you through this Zoom is an energy transfer. It is frequency, it's information that's coming in, and there's a receiver, and the receiver is the computer or the phone. Just like we have a receiver, the pineal gland in the brain, we also have receivers in our ears. We hear music, right, and feel the vibration. But we forget it because, we're not seeing it. And so I think our patients also forget that. So just remembering that that's where everything starts. So your body, your organs, our DNA, it's all held together by frequency and information. Um, and the way I describe, what I do is emotion is supposed to be energy in motion. And when emotion gets trapped in the body, it's pooling. That's when it causes trouble, right? It causes dis-ease within the body, a dysfunction, or a dissonance in the frequency. So what I notice is that I believe that the physical body is really the barometer of our subconscious mind because that's where all of this stuff gets stored. All of those self-limiting beliefs, all of those trapped negative energies, emotions, thoughts, old patterns, trauma, right? It all gets buried, right? And we sometimes consciously even stuff our emotions. And so I feel like the body is really the barometer of the subconscious mind, right? The reason I can say that, is, for example, if I wake up and I have a pain on the right side of my neck, all right, the right side of the body is typically male, the left side is female. So I'm like, okay, so now I got the character in the play, some guy, pain in my neck, right? Um, Necks are about being flexible or inflexible. So either I'm being inflexible with this person or this person is literally being inflexible with me and is causing a pain in my neck. Now, typically, if it's male and it's a pain in my neck, it's probably Jamie, right? Sorry, I had to. I had to. All right. Anyway, the physical body is really going to tell us what's going wrong. And in my book, Healing Through Soul Intelligence, I talk about the stomach in particular, right? We know from Hippocrates that everything, all health begins and ends in the gut, right, Joe?
Right. First
So
guy, 4,000 years ago. Okay.
only 4,000 years ago. Okay, so in the gut, right? That's where we usually start treating people in functional medicine, right? Because so much goes on there. But if you look at the gut energetically, it is our third chakra, okay, the third major energy center in the body. And that center, okay, is where not only the stomach is that holds food and processes food, it's where we hold emotions and process emotions, or we don't. And the third chakra represents how we feel about ourselves in the world, our self esteem, how we show up. It's where not only the relationship to self happens, it's the relationships with others. And if you think about it, life's all about relationships. And if you think about when you go into a situation where you're really kind of worked up, you're really nervous, you might get butterflies in your stomach, right? That's the first place you feel it, right? Or something really bad happens, you feel like you got punched in the gut. So it is really the prime energy center when we talk about relationships. So that's what I mean when I talk about the body as the barometer to the subconscious mind, because it's going to tell us what's going on. And so all of our stuff is stuck in the subconscious mind, which is running the show 95% of the time, which is really frightening when we think about how much time we spend up here, strategizing, thinking, calculating. It's only running the show 5% of the time. So we have to have a way to get into that subconscious mind, right? Because that's where it's stuck, and most people can't access that. So let's talk about emotions for a second. So Dr. David Hawkins wrote a book called Power versus Force. Force being where you push, the masculine kind of end of energy, and power where it's more of open and receiving and holding power. But he laid out the entire spectrum of consciousness, and you can actually measure emotions in hertz, which is why Joe and I were talking about measuring nutraceuticals on a similar scale. So you can see lower frequencies at the bottom that things like guilt and shame are actually well below fear. Isn't that fascinating? The other thing that's below fear is perfectionism, which
Mm.
I've done some measurements for additional emotions. So you want to pull yourself down really quickly, go for perfect instead of progress. That's a great way to hit the other end. And then you can kind of see it around 200 hertz when you get to kind of courage that you make that transition from really destructive to constructive energy. And then obviously, as we move up the scale, we feel much better. We can vibrate in that place of love. And when I do my energy work, I can measure. I actually have a chart that I use that shows me where we're starting at the beginning of a session and where we finish at the end of a session. And typically, we're going to want to move into that high alpha or low theta range. So let's talk.
Christine,
Yeah,
can I ask a question, please?
sure.
Um, Go back to that slide
Sure.
and look. What immediately caught my attention was from 400 to 550. You have
Hmm.
reason, love, joy. And, you have 432 hertz is the frequency basically of the universe, 528
Yes.
of the earth, and
Yes.
and those are the balancing frequencies, and it's right dead center of this. I never saw this chart laid out
Laid
like that
out that
before. It
way.
makes all the sense in the world now.
Yeah, well, also that's one of the reasons why people go out and ground, and that's what they mean by
Yes.
grounding, right? Because you're
Yes.
you're getting into that frequency. It's also one of the reasons why being at the ocean, right, and hearing those waves and feeling that vibration is so calming for people. It literally
Mm,
brings you back into stasis. Fascinating. All right. So, sound or vibrational healing promotes physical, emotional, and spiritual well being. This is according to Donovan Health, just came out earlier this year. It also, sound or vibrational healing can help enhance brain function and neurogenesis, diminish stress and anxiety levels, alleviate pain, enhance sleep, uplift your mood, and certainly decrease inflammation. All factors when we think about chronic illness and disease.
mm,
So if we look at, you know, other other studies that have come out, mood improvement. There's a 2018 study that came out in Frontiers in Psychiatry. They found that just after 3 months of vagus nerve stimulation, study participants suffering from depression saw a remission rate of 17%. And after a year, it rose to 33%. So mood
mm.
improvement simply with, um, vagus nerve stimulation. Better brain health. The studies in Journal of Natural Science, Biology and Medicine showed that vagus nerve stimulation increases the neurogenesis, the formation of new brain cells, right? Especially in the memory part of the brain, in the hippocampus. And it also can reduce high blood pressure, which is good for me, right, Joe?
Right.
Another study from 2018, published in the Journal of Traditional and Complementary Medicine, had 54 participants participate in a vagal stimulation technique for 3 months. That resulted in an 81% reduction in hyperreactivity, the stress-induced blood pressure changes, and it significantly lowered their blood pressure numbers.
And Christine, I think everybody should. Not everybody knows about the vagus nerve. So I mean, this is the gut brain connection right here.
Mm-hmm.
It goes through the vagus nerve. That's why it's so important.
Awesome. Well, feel free to chime in. I know you dig this stuff, Joe.
I love it.
So when we talk about the heart, I found this fascinating that it doesn't pump, it actually creates a vortex, right? It forms this continuous band, and each beat twists and untwists like a spiral, spinning the blood instead of pushing it. So it's really self-propelling flow, not pressure, even though we call it blood pressure. The heart is fascinating because it also generates electricity. And according to the Heart Math Institute, the heart's field's 100 times stronger and 5,000 times stronger magnetically than the brain. And it creates this toroidal field, a 3D vortex that extends 6 feet wide around you, where the brain only has a 2 foot wide electromagnetic field around it. So it is an infinitely stronger. So when we talk about, when I start getting into a little bit of the quantum physics in a minute, really, we want to make sure that, yes, you have an intention. That's the electric part of the electromagnetic field. That's spark, okay, the masculine spark. But what magnetizes things to you, what brings things into you, is emotion. And that's what comes from the heart, right? And it's infinitely more powerful. So when there was a book that came out a number of years ago called The Secret, um, it was focused on affirmations and intentions. What was missing was what Neville Goddard said, which was feeling really is the secret, right? And feeling is what brings things into you. And feelings, in particular, are what's stuck in the subconscious mind. And thoughts that are repetitive thoughts are beliefs. And beliefs are then, cloud our vision because then they become those same neural pathways that need to be pushed and changed in order for us to be able to shift out of an old pattern or limiting belief. So anyway, when you got this vortex, right, it's building polarity, like positive and negative, and it creates attraction. So that's why hearts actually feel one another. I find it fascinating that we had to stand 6 foot apart back in 2020, Joe.
How about that? Just happened to be six.
Huh. Anyway, love, empathy, and resonance are fields. Okay, not just thoughts. Gratitude, peace, and joy make your heart's vortex coherent. Whereas when we looked at the other end of the scale, things like fear and stress and anger make it chaotic, right? So that the vibrations are very chaotic. They're not in coherence. So your emotional frequency actually shapes the field that you personally broadcast to the world. So in quantum physics, right, we talk about the observer effect. Matter is energy and form, and energy responds to conscious direction. So you've heard the expression where your attention goes, right? That's exactly what we're talking about. Particles behave differently when you observe them, right? So your observation, your attention literally changes how energy organizes itself into matter. So your beliefs collapse infinite possibilities into your current physical reality. And our nervous system, hence the big vagus nerve we just talked about, but our nervous system in general is a quantum receiver, which is why when people are in chronic stress, right, we're constantly stressed out, you can't receive anything. You can't hear anything. Your body's in this fight or flight and is resistant to anything that's coming in. So the nervous system really broadcasts and receives information from the field. So when you're calm and you're coherent and you're focused, we're sending a very clear energetic signal that reorganizes both the internal and external reality that we experience. So one of the coolest things I did this year is I had the opportunity to go to one of Dr. Joe Dispenza's 7-day meditation retreats. And I got to do that this summer. Jamie and I, Jamie Dorley, CEO of Nutritional Frontiers, and I went, and it was an amazing experience. And a lot of what he talks about is heart and brain coherence. So the heart is truly the most powerful electromagnetic organ in the body. It radiates that 6 foot wide field. And when your heart and your brain are in coherence, you actually generate a magnetic frequency that can reorganize matter and even influence your DNA expression. So when the heart and the mind are in coherence, that equals optimum health. And together they form this electromagnetic blueprint that instructs energy how to take form. So that's how things like intention-based healing, you might have heard of coherence healings where people send energy or Reiki, like that's how that works. They're sending coherent energy. Visualization, like seeing the reality that you want to experience. Meditation, prayer, all of those intentions, in addition to bioenergetic methods like soul intelligence, can actually create measurable physical change. But you can't force matter to change through thought alone. It only happens when your field is coherent. That's why when I said the secret didn't work, it was just because it was only part of the story. It was not just sending the signal out into the field. The emotion is what actually collapses the wave and brings it into particle or physical form. So when your thoughts, emotions, and energy are aligned, your biology naturally reprograms itself to match the frequency. All right, so this is really freaking cool. Literally, okay, November 6th, this month, Dr. Joe had partnered, just released this research from UC San Diego's research lab. And what they did is they looked at people who did this 7-day intensive meditation retreat beforehand and afterwards, and they tested pretty much everything you can test, from having the everything on the brain to the heart, to bodily fluids, like everything. And so this 7-day intensive meditation retreat can trigger the same brain activity found only by psychedelic substances. So you actually can get a biological reset. And I'm telling you, I had a few trippy experiences, which I'll tell you one on one if you really want to know. All right. But what happened? Well, the meditation produced actual neural patterns that dramatically quieted the brain's and calmed the brain down. So we could actually see brain scans of people before and after. And it included states with mystical experiences. So it was heightened brain activity, vibrating at these very, very fast states. Also, neuroplasticity was activated, right? So they looked at the blood afterwards, and it showed massive increases that support brain rewiring and personal transformation. Pain relief. The meditation actually elevated the opioids in the body, the endogenous, one of your favorite words, Joe, the
Mhm.
body's natural painkillers, indicating activation of internal pain management systems. Molecular and epigenetic programming. So changes in gene expression and epigenetic markers that might, enhance stress resilience and maybe help reverse aging, that long-term biological adaptation. And it also boosted immunity. So it increased both inflammatory and anti-inflammatory immune signals. Um, Amazing, absolutely amazing. If you get the opportunity to go, I highly recommend it. Not that I'm dropping nuggets or anything, but he's coming back to Marco Island, Florida in January. Very, very tempted, Joe. Very tempted. Okay. So when we talk about quantum physics, our body isn't just chemical, it's electric and photonic, right? We have electricity running through our bodies. Most of our body's water. So when our cells are charged, our consciousness actually has the energy to reshape matter. So consciousness is what directs our energy. Energy directs matter. Matter mirrors consciousness. So remember, you're not creating from thought, you're really creating from the frequency you hold, which is why a lot of the activities that I do, especially with our team, is all about picture what you're doing a year from now. Who are you with? What are you celebrating? How do you feel? What are all the cool experiences you had? And you put yourself in that situation and feel it as if it's already happened, because that is what the body responds to, the frequency. The subconscious mind does not know time, and it does not know physical from energetic. All right, so let's talk about some vibration therapies that actually you may be more familiar with. Get out of the quantum for a minute. We're going to get down to the physical. We're going to talk about pain and muscle treatment. All right. This little guy right here has become my friend after
Mhm.
tennis. But myofascial pain, right? Muscle inhibition, delayed onset of muscle soreness. You can use these vibration therapies to actually improve tissue extensibility, increase your strength, and decrease muscle soreness. So, what this basically shows, according to the International Journal of Sports Physical Therapy, um, is that applying this 80 hertz of vibration for 5 minutes a day for 6 months post operation showed significantly lower analog pain scale scores at the end of a 6 week follow up compared to those who didn't do it. So vibrational therapy can actually reduce the soreness. They also analyzed the range of motion using, after using the massage gun. And again, they saw, an increase in range of motion following treatment. So it can really help you. One of the key things about being an athlete um, at older ages, like myself,
Mhm.
is recovery time. So
Mhm.
using vibrational therapy can actually help you recover quicker. In addition, we have wonderful supplements that help too, right, Joe?
Power fuel, baby. Power fuel.
That is my go-to on the court for sure. But vibrational therapy can also actually be a full body workout, right? Because the body perceives vibration as instability. So 15 minutes on a vibration plate can actually be an entire body workout. And it can also improve your muscle strength and power, bone density. It's actually shown promise in improving bone mineral density, which I thought was fascinating, is in particular with postmenopausal women and older adults. Um, Increase flexibility and range of motion, helping muscles relax and improve circulation and giving us better flexibility. Better blood circulation, I guess because of the rhythmic contractions in the muscles, it can enhance the blood flow. It can reduce muscle soreness and recovery time. Again, key if you're an athlete. Um, and Potential weight loss and body comp. It's not really a magic bullet for weight loss, but it can help boost the metabolism and reduce body fat when you combine it with a healthy diet and exercise regimen. So just knowing like there are some physical benefits to vibration therapy in particular.
Christine, yeah, can I just interject one
Sure.
thing there? Number four, rhythmic contractions of muscles. Dr. Bob, one of our brand ambassadors, Bob Rakowski, said at one of our last professional training events, he said, if you just do isometric exercises, contract and release, arms, legs, shoulders. That's going to mimic this. It's a rhythmic contraction of the muscle, and it's going to start that process and that flow. So if you don't have access to a vibrating plate, you can create your own just using isometric exercises.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Well, this is the one that caught my attention and gave me the idea that I really wanted to do this presentation. Um, how about a chronic disease like cancer? Dare I say that out loud? All right.
Yes.
Molecular jackhammers, good vibrations eradicate cancer cells, according to Rice University, a study they did in 2023. Light-induced whole molecular vibration can rupture melanoma cells'
Mm.
membranes. So what they did is the atoms of a small dye molecule that was used for the medical imaging can vibrate in unison, forming what they call a plasmon when it's stimulated by near infrared light, and it caused the cell membrane of the cancerous cells to rupture using,
Mm.
wow, like
Wow.
vibration, frequency, energy
Yes.
to break up cancer cells. Another
Mm.
study published in Nature Chemistry, the method had 99% efficiency against lab cultures of human melanoma cells, and half of the mice that were treated with melanoma tumors became cancer-free after the treatment. So I thought it was really interesting. If you look at the image, right? If you look at a cancer cell, right? When you put vibration, you can see how incoherent it looks compared to a healthy sound that's made by a healthy cell. And,
Mm.
I at one time had a cervical cancer scare personally. And this was well before I worked for Nutritional Frontiers. But what happened to me is I had been a corporate revenue and turnaround specialist for most of my career. And so at the time that I grew up in corporate America, it was very much that women had to work twice as hard to receive equal pay as men at that time. I hit the glass ceiling on my head so many times. I'm lucky I don't have bumps still. But I learned to operate more like a man, to always stay up on sports statistics, to make fun of anybody who is emotional at work. Yes, get this, the woman that's talking to you about emotions tonight. To make sure, that I use crass language. I was one of the guys, right? And I had basically stuffed my femininity down so far that it went to the seat of womanhood, which is the cervix for a woman and the prostate area for a man. Incidentally, one of the reasons why so many retired men get prostate cancer is that is um, the seat of manhood, right? So they're no longer producing, providing, they've lost their purpose, and that's where the energy goes. So it's really
Why, I'll
fascinating.
never retire.
Awesome, Joe. So I went for, just a regular checkup, and the OBGYN told me I had an abnormal pap. So they did an in-office procedure, and those cells came back affected. And so she said I needed to go for a conical biopsy. I'm like, a what? What? I just didn't even want to say the word. Like, I can't believe that I could potentially have that. So I called every healer I knew. I used a method at the time that was not what I've developed today as soul intelligence, but I used my own healing methodology. I went to other healers. I did energetic acupuncture. I went to functional medicine folks. I went to a psychic. Someone told me the first lady I talked to said, well, the reason this happened is because you're not in touch with your divine feminine. I go, well, what the hell does that mean? Right? I didn't know what she meant at the time. Now we understand the balance of masculine and feminine energy, but at the time I didn't realize what she meant. So I started studying like all these cool goddesses and, historical figures, these women that were really powerful. And then someone said to me, an energy worker and massage therapist said, you know, by the time you go in for that biopsy, it's going to be gone. And I went, you know what? You're right. So I started envisioning my cells vibrating healthy. I started meditating, praying, imagining that everything was fine and I didn't have to do anything. And I remember being so disconnected, by the way, from my body at the time before I went in for any of the treatment that I just said basically, when I'm done having kids, they can take my parts out. I mean, that's how crazy it was at the
Mm.
time. And, I didn't realize what it meant to have suppressed that energy, but it had to go somewhere. So it went to the seat of womanhood. And so I went in, had the procedure done, and I will never forget the OBGYN's face when she came out of that room because she said to me, "We must have cut it all out. It's gone." I'm like, "What?" Yeah. So was it that we cut it all out? Was it the energy work? Yes, it's all of it together, physical, mental, emotional. All right. So cancer, it's possible. So let's talk about energy healing. The Cleveland Clinic, people, the Cleveland Clinic has recognized energy therapies, focusing on the connection between your mind and your body. Recognizes that by aligning them, you can create balance in your body and improve your overall health and well-being. They're actually studying the effects of energy healing on people receiving cancer treatments there to see if that can boost the immune system function. I'm going to say yes, from personal experience, improve the quality of life, and reduce the side effects of treatment. Things that I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. What we can do, working on, the minerals and hydration and sodium, potassium, magnesium, keeping our cells conductive. These are some things that we can actually do. But I was floored that the Cleveland Clinic is actually recognizing energy medicine now.
About time.
So I'm going to talk to you briefly about the soul intelligence method. This is my proprietary method. It's a bioenergetic healing method. And what that means is it's founded in bioenergetics, which is a study that was brought to light and documented by Dr. Alexander Lowen in the 1950s. And it is basically the correlation between your physical, mental, and emotional well being, which basically says if physically you're not doing well, mentally and emotionally, you're probably not doing so well either, and vice versa, which to me is common sense, right? When you do an intake with a patient, they're telling you about all the things, right? It's not just what's physically going wrong, it's what's going on at home, it's what's going on at work, it's going on with the family and the kids, all of that stuff. So it's all of it. So this system actually gets to the root cause of the chronic conditions by figuring out what's stuck, what energy is no longer in motion, mentally, emotionally, or physically. I think the coolest thing about the method, I love telling healthcare practitioners, zero compliance. All they got to do is show up
Mhm.
to a Zoom or show up in the office for an appointment and receive. That's really it. It
Christine,
address.
can you elaborate on the third bullet point,
Mm-hmm.
addresses specific traumas without making you relive them? I think that's really important.
Yeah, so all of this stuff is stuck in our subconscious mind, right? And you need something to bring it up from the subconscious to the conscious to release it. So the reason why I say it addresses the specific past traumas without a patient having to relive it is typically traditional therapy makes you go back and relive that scene to move that energy and emotion out, right? To elicit a response.
Mm-hmm.
What soul intelligence does is allows me to move the energy and bring it up and name it out loud so the person can recognize it consciously and it just releases. Because once energy is created, it can't be destroyed. It's a scientific fact. It has to be
Right.
transmuted into something else. So we're moving it up and out and back, hopefully, ideally to the divine, right?
Hmm.
Or in the earth. So that's what I mean by they don't relive it. Now, does that mean someone won't cry? No, sometimes people are really emotional, right? And it brought up something, and so they might have an expression like crying, or they might feel relaxed after a session. I've had some people be like giddy. It just depends. Like everybody reacts to energy differently. But when we do cry, I want people to understand that's your soul releasing that eternal part of you. So I always look at that as holy water, as absolutely pure release. And so I actually love it when people cry because I know that they're literally moving it up and out. So this method allows me to identify like what energies, emotions, self-limiting beliefs, patterns, old traumas that are trapped in the body, preventing someone from healing completely. That's one of the reasons why they can't heal, right? If someone's chronically depressed, their body doesn't have enough energy to heal, right? They're stuck in that emotion. They're stuck in that groove. They believe, if they don't believe that they can get well, they're going to come back again. So it's all of those things working together. So I wanted to give you some examples. I've been fortunate enough to be able to partner with a number of our healthcare practitioners. So I have changed names. Don't worry, these are not these are real people, but I have changed their names. But so I did a remote soul intelligence session for a woman, we'll call her Catherine, and discovered that she had a tremendous amount of energy around her heart. And through the session, I saw that she was self-sabotaging. So I asked her if she was taking her heart medications or supplements, and she indicated that she wasn't. So I had to have a very, uncomfortable conversation with her about whether she wanted to stay here on Earth or not, as she was choosing to leave by her inaction. Like her not taking those things was literally causing her heart to start to shut down. And so I worked, to energetically alleviate some of the depression and the fatigue and the self-sabotage, the anxiety, self-abandonment, all of those things that were going on. But the other thing I did, with her permission, I called her MD and naturopathic doctor, Dr. Jamie Mickey, to explain what we had uncovered during the session. So Dr. Mickey reached out immediately to refill her heart medication and the following NF supplements that she needed, which were 7 flowers, which is for blood pressure, that I personally use as well. CircuCore, which is for circulation, and our Enter CoQ10, because CoQ10 and DMG are great for your heart and for the oxygenation in the body, right? All the methylation. So Kathleen, I'm proud to report, is staying the course. She's using her supplement and no longer needs heart medication. She also puts her health needs first before caring for her husband, who happens to be suffering from Alzheimer's, who's required a lot of care, which was really what was kind of what was going on, like in her relationship, that was really pulling her down and
Mm.
causing her not to want to continue. So fortunately now her spirits are really high. She's a lot more positive about life and she's doing so much better physically. So I love that story because that was one where we really had to tag team and it was a pretty critical situation. And it was really cool to be able to partner with one of our healthcare professionals. Here's another one. This one we'll call, I guess who is this, George? Yeah, okay. So I did a remote soul intelligence session, discovered that the patient had a tremendous amount of energy in his stomach and his thoracic area. And at the start of the session, I mean, I could see on Zoom, he had a hard time breathing. It was labored. He had, oxygen in his nose, and he was in a real great deal of pain. He had tried everything from traditional medicine to naturopathic solutions, and it was pretty much at the end of his rope. His wife had seen me on a podcast and thought it was worth a try. So, what we discovered is that the energy that was causing his discomfort wasn't even his. He had been holding on to guilt and trauma for his entire company of 80 people for an incident that occurred during the Vietnam War. Crazy, right? That amount of energy. Further, the work revealed he was also hanging on to guilt from a divorce that compounded this energy and held it in place. And his health has been declining. So after we removed the stuck energy, I recommended he work with our Nutritional Frontiers medical director, Dr. Lynn Bransowitz. Dr. Lynn often works with difficult cases and people who are kind of at the end of their rope, like they don't know what else to do or where to turn. So he ordered tests, he reviewed the patient's history, the blood work, and he discovered that the patient had too much serotonin and not enough GABA in his system, which what was, causing this phantom pain. I call it a phantom pain because that's what traditional medicine was calling it. They didn't know what was causing his pain. and it was in his abdomen and his chest. Nobody else had been able to diagnose it. And so Dr. Lin explained to him that, the medications that are prescribed for depression and anxiety are all dosed by the milligram or kilogram per body weight. And so the medical model says more is always better. So they kept titrating him up because of the pain, which is actually what was causing him the pain. So Dr. Len put him on the following protocol. Had him start taking Calm Day, which is basically, I call it our, mother's little helper or natural Xanax. But he started him at a lower dose on 2, and they titrated up to 5 per day because of the GABA that's in Calm Day. And he explained that when the brain recognizes the GABA levels are going up, and inflammation goes down and the pain goes down. So since the gut is where all the serotonin is produced and excreted, and I told you how important the gut is, right? Dr. Len put him on Probzyme and GI Complete as well. So the lactospore probiotic negates and neutralizes the serotonin. And so, due to our combined energetic and nutraceutical approach, George is well on his way to recovery. He's healing mentally, emotionally, and physically. And both of these patients, I actually do check in with and do see, and people always ask me, well, how many sessions does it take? And the answer is always, it depends. It depends on what's going on and what we're trying to heal. And I also equate a soul intelligence session to being like when you go to a chiropractor, you get a biomechanical adjustment, right? They're physically manipulating the spine. When you come to me, you're getting a bioenergetic adjustment. So sometimes people need an adjustment because they've been around other people in intense situations, and sometimes it's in every once in a while, I need it. So, people start to get the sense of when they need assistance. So the last case study I'll talk to you about tonight, her name is Marcy. She actually is a pharmacist herself, and she attended a soul intelligence group session that I held. And she wrote me that she has had a debilitating condition for 3 years that caused her to be on disability. She went on to say that during that session, she finally felt a sense of peace for the first time that she can recall since she had this condition appear. So we scheduled a private session, and during it, I uncovered a trauma that occurred 10 years prior where a patient had held her up at gunpoint in her own pharmacy, which actually started the decline in her immune function. Because one of the things that I showed you at the beginning, when we talk about, the emotions and the scales of consciousness, fear is way down at the bottom. And so when your body is in fear, right, your constant fight, flight, it drops your body's ability, right, in your immune function, right? That's one of the reasons why we need to be in this calm state in order to heal. So she has long haul COVID and chronic fatigue syndrome and depression. So, in addition to us doing energy work, I suggested she also work with Dr. Len to get the right protocols since she's a pharmacist and he's a pharmacist, and I figured they'd gel. So, to continue her path while we work on things energetically. So, what are some of the things that you can do to build your own frequency? You can think about light. Light actually, sunlight feeds your mitochondria with photons to make ATP, gives us energy, right? I always wondered, someone said to me that they're going to go outside with their dogs first thing in the morning because they're always like bathing in the sun for a good 15 minutes and morning sun is good. So I thought, oh, that's really kind of a cool idea. Maybe you go out and lay outside with your dog for 15 minutes. But getting out in natural sunlight, that's really helpful. Looking at the glucose metabolism, making sure that, the glucose and the thyroid activity is functioning well. So you have high voltage, lot of energy, a lot of movement, good production. Minerals and hydration. Some of the things that we get depleted the most, right? I think magnesium is number one, right, Joe? Besides vitamin D, which you can get
Number one mineral, yes, absolutely.
if you go outside in the sunlight. But sodium, potassium help your cells conduct energy and electricity. Oxygen and movement, right? Movement increases the electron flow and the ATP output. And then obviously we're talking about emotional coherence, right? Gratitude and joy are at the higher end. So that really helps expand your electromagnetic field. So when I'm working with, soul intelligence clients with soul intelligence, I often suggest that they do some basic foundational things, right, to help give them just some overall support. And one of the things that I love about Nutritional Frontiers is that they've got options for everyone. We've got a women's complete and a men's complete, a frontier multi, and omegas as great foundations, right? So women's complete is wonderful. I love that one because it has a probiotic in it that I use and love. Frontier Men's has more men's support, so there's CoQ10 in that one. And then we have the Frontier Multi, which is for anyone, which is actually what my mom likes to take. And then, of course, pairing that with an omega, right? Because that's so good for our brain health. When I'm working with people that are suffering from stress, right? Most of the patients I see or clients I see suffer from stress. We have Calm Day as an option. I also like Adrenamax because it's an adaptogen, so that can help manage, right, the cortisol levels in the body in, both in the morning and at night. So it's one of those that you can actually take either times. Like a lot of times, adrenal formulas you have to take in the morning just because, to give a natural balance. But Adrenamax actually adapts to your body, which I love. Sleep time is a great solution. A lot of times I'm dealing with people that have, really bad insomnia, right? Because they're so anxious, they're so stressed, they're so tense. So sleep time is a great option. I often recommend that to people. I'm a big believer in Mag Complete. We just talked about how it's the number one thing that's depleted in your body. I notice if I don't take it, I will get leg cramps. So I definitely am a big believer in taking our magnesium at night. And then Super B is always great for concentration and focus and brain health. I mentioned our digestion protocol that Dr. Len recommended. Probzyme and GI Complete is actually one full digestion protocol, right? So you chew the probiotic enzyme. I never leave home without that. It is always in my briefcase for every meal. And then GI Complete is wonderful to just keep everything regular and really support gut health in general. And then a lot of times, people are wanting to, they've put on weight because I mentioned to you the solar plexus, right, is the core, the center. And we put on weight sometimes to protect ourselves, believe it or not, in that area. So often if somebody is talking to me about that being part of the challenge in the physical, I will recommend that they do our ultimate shake and greens, which is really our detox protocol. And we have this really cool binder called Remove Complete that you could also include if someone really wanted to do a heavy metal detox and get clean. And my two favorite weight loss solutions are Nutriglutide and Thermogenesis Complete. And that those two together actually help with all the four um, challenges of metabolic syndrome. What I love about Nutriglutide in particular is that it can also help regulate the blood sugar, right? And insulin levels as well. Joe, you're smiling like a proud papa.
I am so proud. Yes, yes, my number one student of all time.
Awesome. All right. So, when we talk about healing people, we're talking about healing them physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, energetically, and all levels. And so I do talk about supplements. I actually have, if you don't know anything about the soul intelligence method, I use a book of charts and a pendulum. That's how I can get so specific with the information and understand what happened, when it happened, and how do we shift it. Um, and, I do actually have a chart of Nutritional Frontiers protocols and supplements. So I may suggest to someone, look, I'm not a healthcare professional. I can download this to you energetically. If you feel called to take it in the physical, do that. But most of the time, what I'm doing is referring them directly to one of our healthcare professionals so that they can also follow up. Because a lot of times when people are working with me, they've got serious chronic conditions that are going on. So, how could you work with me? And what are some ways to experience the soul intelligence method? Um, you can join my final free group session of the year on Wednesday, December 19th at 6 o'clock. I promise Philly Phil will send an email out about it so that you have an opportunity to sign up. Um, I also decided that I was going to do a mini soul intelligence weekend workshop. It's going to be 4 hours on Friday, December 12th from 1 to 5 Eastern, and 4 hours on Saturday, December 13th from 10 to 2. And my book of charts is about 30 charts. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach 15 of them. They're 15 key charts so that you can just do this for yourself, so that you can get an experience and feel much better. Then, if you want to learn the full course after you get a taste of that, you have the opportunity to do that because that is online, it's virtual, and you can go to Nutritional Frontiers website under Education and Events to sign up to take that course to become a neuroenergetic healthcare professional like myself. Another way for us to work together is you could refer clients. Say you're working with a challenging client, they're not getting better. You want to suggest something. You can refer them to me, and I'm happy to help and partner with you. You could schedule a one-on-one session with me. Maybe you want to experience this one-on-one. I'm happy to work with anybody that's interested in that. You can schedule those one-on-one sessions with me by going to my website, soulintelligencemethod.com. If you want to learn a little bit more about me, about healing through soul intelligence, my book is available on Amazon and Kindle. It's also available on Audible in case you want to listen to it. All right, so there's lots of different ways for us to hopefully work together. I just want to remind everybody, when you raise your soul intelligence, really, you're raising your life, your energy, every choice, every cell, every moment. And just remember that everybody and everything is energy. And I will be happy to take any questions that anybody has right now. So let me
First of all, I just want to say thank you to Christine. I can tell you, I can vouch, as the godfather of nutrition, when I vouch, it's big. So I vouch for her program because I've done it. Many members of my family have done it. We've all been helped by it. And it's something, it could be the missing link in your protocol, guys. So don't take this lightly. Energy is everything. Vibrational medicine, frequency is everything. And great recap. You mentioned electricity, minerals equals electricity. Power
Mm.
fuel has minerals. Make sure you get that. Chlorophyll is oxygen, the greens. Make sure you have that, and there's nothing better than DMG. And one last thing, Christine, you mentioned the pineal gland,
I did.
and the one nutrient that will help decalcify your pineal gland is vitamin K2.
Mm. Thank you, Joe. I'm going to steal that
Absolutely.
nugget.
Well, you ain't still. I'm giving it to you. You ain't still.
Awesome. Well, I share some of my own stories in my book too, about my own healing journey. I shared one of those with you tonight. Um, and just know that, look, it all works together, right? It's not one thing, versus another thing. And that's why I absolutely love that I am a part of the Nutritional Frontiers family and that I'm able to help people heal, physically, help move the energy up and out, and then, give the body what it needs so that it can heal itself. And so I appreciate everybody's attention tonight. And again, if you're interested in learning more about soul intelligence, there's lots of ways you can do that. And you can get a hold of me right here with Nutritional Frontiers. All right. Oh, thank you guys. Oh, I'm getting some really nice comments, Joe. I'm feeling all good.
Well, I just realized, who you really are, Christine. All right, this is going to be one for
Uh-oh.
the books. Ready?
Oh boy.
You talk so much about quantum energy, quantum physics, and so basically Christine, guys, is if Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang and Penny had a kid, it'd be Christine. The brains and the beauty right there, all
Oh
in
my
one.
gosh. You're something else. Uh, wow, someone said that they're using a vibration plate daily with autistic students. That's incredible.
Oh, nice.
I love it. And oh, thank you. Someone said they're going to get my book. Just like I said, everything works together. Someone also said the FDA just recently approved sound healing for liver
Mm,
tumors. Yeah, I know they're using it to start to
mhm.
destroy these cell membranes. I just couldn't be happier to find a way to really help us heal completely.
Yeah,
So
Royal Rife did it a long time ago with frequency and cancer. So it's there. We got to bring it back.
I love it. Well, everyone, I hope you have a wonderful night. Yeah, someone's else using tones to help autistic students rest.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Well, thanks everybody. It's so good to be with you. Also, if you're in the Pittsburgh area, coming up in December, we'd love to have you come celebrate with us. We have a VIP holiday party the first week of December. So if you are in the Pittsburgh area, please look us up. Again, it's under events on the Nutritional Frontiers website. And we do have some roundtable dinners, in certain areas throughout the country. I'm going to be at the one in Tampa. I think we've got one coming to South Florida. And I know actually there's one in Atlanta tonight,
Mm.
as well as one in Connecticut coming up. So hopefully we'll get to celebrate with you. If we don't get to, we hope you have a wonderful holiday season. And I would be remiss if I did not mention that our Nutritional Frontiers Black Friday sale is on, people. Everything I talked about tonight
That's right.
from the Nutritional Frontiers line is 15% off. So anything you're interested in, any of the protocols we mentioned or foundation formulas, go get them. It's the best time of the year to stock up. So if I don't get to talk to you, I wish you and yours a wonderful Thanksgiving and holiday season.
Thank you, Christine.
You
Awesome.
got it. Okay, bye, everybody.